Hey, good morning to those of you out there on the West Coast. Good afternoon to those of you here on the East Coast with me. It's a beautiful day out there, still full of snow, but that's nice. I didn't even bother shoveling my drive too much. Got to save the back, but enough to get out of the car. Let me go ahead and turn some of my captions off here. I appreciate you showing up and engaging in the chat. Um, that's always really helpful because when you do, other people engage with you, and LinkedIn starts saying, hey, we got a good meeting going on. So make sure you're always engaging in the chat, and then connect with other people and talk to them. This is your community as well as where I can do training. I like to start off my my trainings with just a quick tip for success as a thank you to those of you showing up early and on time. And today, 7 habits for highly effective people, which I'm going to use every single day of the year, but I'm just going to use different parts. And so this week I'm going through habit number 1, which is be proactive. Be proactive. And my tip for you today on being proactive is don't make it hard for the federal buyers to find you, right? And to do all this search and then they find you. Be proactive and go put your information as close as you can to them. And today that means in supplier portals. The government has multiple supplier portals. The number one supplier portal is DSBS. I talk about it all the time, the Dynamic Small Business Search. That's where all of us are who are small businesses. We go in SAM, we go in DSBS, we're good. That's the number one supplier portal. But HHS, they have their own supplier portal. NASA, Army Contracting Command, Aberdeen Proving Ground, they have their own. NavAir has their own. Many different companies, large primes, have their own. So be proactive. Take 5 minutes every day and put yourself into a new supplier portal. My personal opinion is don't listen to anybody who says, decide whether you want to get into GE. Don't. Get into every supplier portal. It can never be bad. It's a shot on goal. And just like in hockey, we say a shot on goal is not a bad thing. Not that I ever play hockey, but it's not a bad thing, right? A shot on goal is never a bad thing. And so registering in a supplier portal where that large company might not be your target one, it's not a bad thing. They might discover you, see you, and refer you somewhere. So just get into supplier portals. Be proactive about helping your customers find you. That was just a quick tip for those of you showing up early and on time. I really appreciate it that you do. We've got almost 200 people registered for today's training. It looks like this week we've got some good training this week, next week that people are signing up for, which is awesome. But we like to get LinkedIn to push the reminder out to folks. I'm going to say a little later in today's presentation that you can add our calendar to your calendar so you never miss an event and you never have to worry about getting a reminder from LinkedIn. Okay, so let me go find my, so let's get started in the training. And today we're going to be talking about capture management, or what I like to say is capture. And I really learned this term because capture management is trying to manage something like project management, a bunch of activities. Capture is a verb. It's about doing capture, and capture is about going out into the field, engaging with your customer, et cetera. And so I like to say capture, but the problem is too many of us don't understand what capture is, which is fine, and we'll just try to help. And too many of us understand it and skip it. That's not fine. If you don't know what it is, it's okay. We'll teach you. All right. And so from a high level, capture is this step between business development and proposal writing in federal sales. Business development from the very highest level is you hear about multiple opportunities you want to pursue, and proposal writing is you're writing a response back to the government. And a lot of people, they're right next to each other. I hear about them and I get ready and I write responses, and I've got a whole machine in place to write responses. I heard from somebody, and no names, but like they had told me, I think they had written 91 proposals and got like 15 responses or something, whatever it was. And I'm like, well, at that point, you're just into that proposal writing side of the house, and you're missing this hugely valuable thing called capture. I call capture a verb because it is us doing activity around that. And so we're going to be talking about that. I really want to dive into it. I'm going to be doing it at a high level because I do a ton of training on capture, and I often like to go into particular portions and go deeper into it. So you can find 100 trainings that I've done. The replays are all available for free, but you can find me diving into deep ones. And in 2025, I'm going to go into it again. If you're a subscriber, keep watching the pipeline. I'm going to actually put my capture course in there for you to be able to see that. But let me go ahead and get our slides started here and just move in. Okay, I think I'm good to go. Let's get started on diving into the meat of capture, or capture management, as some people call it. I'm going to cover down on capture in 3 different ways in today's training. The first thing is I just want to level set. What is the purpose of capture? What is capture from a high level, right? And this is a generic way of talking about capture. Remember, for all of us, if we're newer to the vocabulary, right? Sales is something we do in any business that we have, whether we have a restaurant or we sell vacuum cleaners like I did when I was 18, or we're selling billion-dollar solutions like I did when I was older than 18, right? Sales is something we do to try to get a customer to buy our solution or our product. And inside of federal sales, there's these 3 terms: business development, capture, and proposal writing. And so I'm going to drive into the purpose of capture and how that fits into the federal sales lifecycle. Then I want to talk about the stages of the federal sales pipeline and how you can move an opportunity forward. I want to talk about this from a high level to get you seeing that. And then the last thing I want to give you are some tips on how much power you have to shape that opportunity before you write a proposal to increase the chances you're going to win. You want to win, right? You want to win more. I know you do. So if that sounds good, put Capture Rocks in the chat. Capture Rocks in the chat. Let me know you're along for the ride. If you don't know who I am, my name is Neil McDonough. I am the president of the GovCon Chamber of Commerce. I am co-founder of GovCon in a Box, and I want to welcome you to my federal sales training, where I provide tips for success in the federal market. I spent 20 years in the federal market after I got out of the Army, and in 2018, after I sold my last company, I started teaching people like you that government contracting is not a secret. It's just a process. When we follow a process A to Z, we have repeatable, predictable results. And that's what I want for you. Capture is absolutely falling into a process standpoint. I have literally laid out every single step of capture that I follow and I teach my customers to follow. And when that's done, we significantly increase our chances of winning. But we make it a really easy step-by-step guide instead of some great talent. I don't have a talent in capture. I have a skill set, and you can have that same skill set. I want to teach it to you over and over again. And if you've got questions, you go ahead and ask me. If you haven't done so already, make sure you subscribe to our Government Contracting Success newsletter. It is the largest GovCon newsletter on LinkedIn because we keep providing you great content. Get in there, check it out. Make sure you subscribe. Tell your friends about it. The second thing I want to pay attention to on this page is tomorrow's training is about how federal buyers buy stuff. I'm talking about business development yesterday and capture today. That's how we sell stuff. That's our sales process. And I want to talk about the buying process, the acquisition process tomorrow. And I want to give you an understanding of that as we're pushing into 2025 here on January 8th. I want you to see how you sell aligned to how they buy. And that's what tomorrow's training is. So make sure you go register for that. Before we get too far, I just want to congratulate the companies that are in the 100 Club. These are companies that have a federal visibility score on govconinabox.com of 100 out of 100. There are 360,000 small businesses registered to sell to the federal government, and only 120 of them are in the 100 Club. If you're in the 100 Club, say I'm in the 100 Club. Put your number. I always like seeing the number because then I go back and I look around. And I want to congratulate SKS, Anju, for coming into the 100 Club since yesterday. I think she reached out to Cecilia. If you don't know, that's my sister who supports the chamber since 2018 as well. They worked together to do some final steps to get over that hurdle of getting to a 100 Club. All of that is free, right? We provide this on GovCon in a Box, a federal visibility score. I tell you score. I tell you what you need to do. I give you videos that show you how to do that. And you go do it all on the federal government's websites. We just make sure you get visible or increase your visibility. So congratulations to all of you. I'm really super excited about this. Okay, so let's start off on capture, just talking about the purpose of capture. By the way, one thing I'm going to try to do is, if my timing is okay, at the last second to last slide, when you see me talking about the power of capture or something, if you've got a couple of questions that I might be able to try to get to, feel free to throw them in. If I don't, I'll answer them afterwards. So the big thing about capture, first off, is just understand its place in the federal sales lifecycle. Federal sales has 3 steps to it: business development and capture and proposal writing. Business development is about understanding an agency, building relationships, and finding opportunities, multiple opportunities. You're trying to find a lot of opportunities that are good fits for your company. You want to find what I call slam dunk opportunities in business development. Those are opportunities you feel like, man, this was built for me. My last company was a SharePoint-based company. If the opportunity was SharePoint, it's slam dunk. If it starts sliding away from SharePoint, I might still do it, but it's no longer a slam dunk, right? And so you need to understand it. But in business development, you're identifying opportunities. When you get to capture, capture is about one opportunity at a time. Capture is a verb. It is a set of activities and tasks you do to shape the opportunity in a way that's most favorable to your company. But you do that one opportunity at a time. So when we talk about capture, we're talking about one opportunity. When we talk about business development, we're talking about many. We're trying to find multiple opportunities. And proposal writing, it is taking the results of capture and writing a great proposal, or what I like to call a winning proposal, one that when the government looks at it, they too feel like it's a slam dunk proposal. Man, I wish I could award to this company, right? That's the federal sales cycle on a high level. Excuse me, and where capture fits into it. So the primary thing about capture, and these are just my terms on how I say it. People can say it in different ways, but the biggest point of capture is to help you win the contract. You want to win more contracts. The way you win more contracts is to understand your customer better and align their needs and their pain points, et cetera, to your solution. I talk about going into meetings and having meetings with people where you have 2 ears and 1 mouth. You want to listen more than you talk, but you also want to make sure you're asking questions that engage that customer to pull it out. Well, capture is the time when you can be doing that. You have this dialogue and you know the problems that your solution solves. You know what you're good at. An example is if I'm looking at a recruiting company, because I see Hillary right there. And what did she say? Full life cycle staffing firm, right? And so she handles that whole recruiting, whether it's for commercial companies like you or federal agencies trying to help them come in. Well, she knows the problem she's handling. If it was you, for example, is that every day that you don't have a position filled, you're losing revenue. So she would be trying to talk about that, not just saying, hey, we can hire people, right? And you want to do the same thing. Understand what are the problems that you could solve and ask questions. And when you ask questions, you're able to begin to drive that customer a little bit more to your thinking and your solutions just through them describing the answer to what they want. Or, here's the problem. Man, I wish I had this. Well, that's them beginning to really communicate about their needs and their goals. And when you get them to do it in the right way and capture, you're able to highlight your strengths and really focus on this is the important things, right? If my strength as with Hillary, let's just use that. If she has a strength around, TS cleared or executive level placement type things, I would be trying to build the importance of that when I'm doing capture as they're shaping their opportunity or their requirements, et cetera. And I would be mitigating my company's weaknesses. And I'll show you how I do that in a little bit. But that's the main purpose of capture, right? Is to increase in their eyes the importance of all the things that are your strength. You want to make them see anything that is your strength, anything you're really, really good at. You want them to be thinking, that's really important to us. And then you just happen to have those things that are really important because you guided them that way. This is sales. This is the whole point of sales. And then the opposite of that, if, let's just use Hillary as an example. Let's say she does not hire people who drive tractors. Well, she wants to minimize that. Really, that's not that big of a deal. And I'm brutalizing the example, but you get my point. But that's what Hillary gets for being right there in my eyesight. She gets to be my example. So capture is about mitigating those weaknesses. And then the last thing about capture that I just want to say here, and I'll continue it in the next couple of slides, is you really want to understand the customer for this area. Business development is about understanding the agency, kind of the whole big picture. Now, when you talk about looking at understanding a particular program officer customer on a particular opportunity, I want to understand that need more. I'm going to be asking questions. I can understand by reading their requirement documents or whatever they put out, but I only understand that much, and all of my competitors understand it as well, right? So that's not helpful to me. What I want to do is understand and pull threads and make more of a pain, the pains that they have that I can solve by exploring their pain points and exploring their goals and objectives they have for this requirement. One thing that I do say is when you're exploring these, if you've got a program office, let's use PEO Digital, or no, let's use David Walsh since he's often on here. He's got he's in one naval warfare center. He's 1 out of 10, and they belong under NAVSEA. So what I would want to do if I'm trying to go after an opportunity in his world, I would want to understand his world more, and then I would want to understand naval warfare centers, the higher command, if you will, the headquarter of that, and NAVSEA's challenges and pain points and goals, missions and priorities, et cetera. I want to understand and weave them into when I'm talking with Dave about his need. I'm saying things like, oh, this aligns to the higher goals, which subliminally is going to make him think, or consciously, oh, shoot, I'm tracking on this as well. That means you are tracking on this. I used a line yesterday, if you're doing daily training with me, where I said, people don't care what you know until they know that you care. And when you do this research, when you get in and have conversations about their needs and pain points and the direction they're trying to go, they feel like you care about them because you're not just coming in there and talking only about your solution. So let's talk about the pipeline stages. If I look at this training today as breaking it up on what's the purpose and what are the stages, the high-level introduction to capture. Capture management is what we do within a sales pipeline, right? Whether you use a spreadsheet or a tool like we have on GovCon in a Box or any fancy tool, whether you use any of those tools, you still want to follow a set of stages that you move an opportunity through. These stages are the ones that I use. They're pretty standard within the industry. Sometimes people tweak the terms, but I just wanted to share with you what you should be thinking about when you think about capture. Capture begins the minute an opportunity comes in the pipeline. Business development, even if it's the same person doing the job. Me as a business developer went into FPDS and I found a bunch of opportunities I like. I'm like, ooh, those all look good. I think they're good fits. They come into my pipeline because I always put them in the pipeline the minute I decide I want to work on them. That way I can track for leadership. In this case, I'm the boss, but I'm tracking for leadership that I'm working on these opportunities. Even if I abandon them later, it helps us learn when we do everything within the pipeline. So unqualified opportunities are ones that look good, but I haven't qualified them at all, right? So they come in, they have that initial capture phase or capture stage, unqualified. When I start doing some work, I'm qualifying that opportunity. And there's different ways people do it. I do it very methodically. I have specific criteria that you have to meet this. This opportunity has to meet this criteria in order to move to qualified. One of the things that needs to get done is an RGA as an example. And I've done a ton of training on this. And we're actually rolling out an automated version within GovCon in a Box that's in beta. But an RGA is a requirement gap analysis. This is different than a compliance matrix. That's way at the other end of the life cycle in the proposal. A requirement gap analysis is I look at the performance work statement or the requirement documents, and I definitively see that it is a fit for my company. I can look in and I look at the task areas. I look at the requirements of what the government is asking for, and I measure myself against that, my company against those task areas. And I say, can we do this? Are we really 5 out of 5, or are we more like 3 out of 5, or even 2 out of 5? And what I say is, if I'm 4 or above, it definitely can move forward to pursue, and I'm going to prime it. If I am below 4, like 3 and below, then I'm either going to abandon it because it's just not a fit for me, or I'm going to sit there and try to find a teaming partner who could prime it, and I'll get under them. But either way, in qualified, what I'm doing is making sure that I can do the work. I find so many people who look at the requirements or get an opportunity in the pipeline, but they really haven't even opened the document, and they're off doing all this extra work. Well, all that extra work, going to meetings, talking to teammates, whatever it is you do, costs money. That's an investment. And the whole point of a pipeline in these stages is to decide, do we want to keep investing even one more of my hours, right, in this particular opportunity? And so by qualifying it, I can sit there and say, look, this is absolutely in my sweet spot. That's what I'm looking for more than anything else, is, can we do this work? I don't care if it's set aside to a woman-owned business and I'm not. I'll just go find a teaming partner. But can I do a good portion of this work? Because if I sub, I'll just go point that out to the other people. If I prime, I'm off to the races. The next stage, so if I've qualified it and I've done that requirement gap analysis, then I'm going to move it forward into pursue. And depending on your size, like sometimes with smaller companies, I actually recommend they just combine pursue and bid, because it really is just confusing to look at the two statuses. But the more mature you get, the more you want to truly use pursue and bid. If I pause for a second and tell you, bid, no bid does not happen at these gates. If they're happening between pursue and bid, we call these gate reviews, not to get overly technical. If they're happening at that point, the problem I have is that means everybody else who's making those no bid decisions, they haven't been paying attention to the opportunity for the last month it's been in the pipeline or whatever, right? Bid, no bid should be happening daily. I should be looking at an opportunity. Still good? Good. Still good? Good. Right? And it takes 1 second to decide that. And it really, it should be pretty easy for us to decide when we're going to abandon stuff. Often we just abandon stuff because we never got to it. But in here, pursue and bid, this is where you're making an investment in capture. And this is where the meat of capture is happening. Pursue is primarily, the way I describe it, is you're out there having meetings with teammates and the government, contracting officers, small business specialists, the PCR, the program office, anybody you can meet with. You're getting in and you're having conversations for multiple reasons, and I'll talk about it in the next slide. But one of the main things is you're building relationships with these people, so you can keep coming back, keep asking questions. You can ask questions for clarity on facts, like which vehicle or set asides to go into, or you can ask questions clarifying those problems that I talked about. You want to get in and talk to them about it. You want to get in and talk to them about, hey, you had this contract for the last 5 years. How'd it go for you? Did you hope you achieved something that you didn't achieve? Did you have a particular win that you liked that you're looking to continue going forward? Have you thought about AI going into the opportunity? Whatever it is, you have to know your own business. But in pursue, it's when you're building those relationships around this particular opportunity. And I like to say, in our pipeline, we have a point of contact field. And I like to say, if you don't have at least 5 people in there, then you really don't know anything about that opportunity. Because at least 3 of them are going to be the contracting officer, contract specialist, and small business specialist, right? But what about the whole program office? There should be 5 people from the program office, not 1 person, but like 5 people. You come in from this angle and this angle and this angle. I was just talking with somebody on LinkedIn who asked me, they said they have a meeting, they're going after an opportunity. I think it's still 2 months out, but the KO was saying, no more talking. We're not talking. And what I recommended to them is, well, first off, that happens sometimes, but you still push in. It's okay for you to stop talking, but it's not okay for me to keep asking. I just won't ask the KO. And so what I suggested to them is go find other people in that program office in that area, talk about something related, but not the opportunity. So an example is find a strategic document and go in and ask them to talk about it. And their mind is thinking, oh, we're talking about 25 and 2026. And you're really getting in there to talk about that, sure, and to slide in a question or two about the opportunity. This is pursue. This is what you're doing, is you're having those meetings, you're building those relationships. And then it moves forward to bid. And in bid is where you're really, the way I like to look at it is really shaping the response. I personally like to have a proposal written before the RFP drops. If I know I'm going after it, and this is not for brand new businesses, but let's say you're 5 million plus for sure, you should be writing proposals before it drops. And it doesn't have to be final copy, but in bid is when I'm hitting the whiteboard and I'm really understanding the solutions. Those relationships I built in pursue, I might go back and say, hey, John, can I just bounce off you? We're thinking about going this direction to try to address your need. Is that going to go in the direction you're looking for? An example is we're thinking about going Microsoft. No, we're an Oracle shop. Oh, blew my mind. Okay, we're going to shift our whole solution around. But also it gives me a chance to really think about the graphics and other stuff I want to do. Again, if you're brand new, you should be subbing on a team. And some of this is a little more advanced. And then proposal writing. This is where you just write the final response. I'm not going to dive too much into it. But when you move forward and you've written that RFP response, after it is dropped and you put in an award, what I really want you to pay attention to is in companies that have got this going smoothly, their pipeline is predictable revenue. I can look at a good pipeline and decide how much of that revenue can I count on. So an example is In awaiting award, anything in awaiting award, I'm going to count on 25% of that. If I can get it up to 30%, I'm happy. I would never count anything more than 30% because that's saying I'm winning more than 1 out of 3. And that's unrealistic. I don't care. The only way that happens is if you've got a sole vehicle. So it's really important. I'm even going to follow this process though myself. I started a company called Nancy Co. And the purpose of it is to demonstrate to people the process that I'm doing. Long story. Watch it on YouTube. But in there, it's a brand new company, just got started. I'm still going to follow the process. I'm going to do it in an hour a day. So don't worry about it. It's overwhelming. Even as you get started, just think about this process. Think about how do I take an opportunity I identified and move it through to writing a proposal by doing capture in the middle. Really quickly, if somebody can drop this into the chat, it's the add event link. It's to say maybe you do that, but make sure you don't miss anything on our LinkedIn Lives. I do these trainings every single day, but sometimes you miss them, you don't hear about them. Put it on your calendar. Add my calendar to your calendar. And then the last thing is, if you're already a subscriber in GovCon in a Box, just want to remind you, we got a meeting today at 2 p.m. It's our community meeting. Love to have you in there. Okay, and last slide. I know I'm kind of running out of time, but I really want to drive on this. You can shape anything within an opportunity. And this is important for you to believe. This is sales, and inside of Capture, you have the ability to have meetings and discussions with the federal buyer. Just because you're going to have an ask doesn't mean the answer is going to be yes, right? Sometimes it's no, and that's okay. But what you can do is the important thing I want you to remember. You can shape the scope of the work. And the earlier you're in there, the more you can shape that scope. I'll give you an example. When I was my last business, the government contracting business, I was a Microsoft Silver partner. In order to be a gold partner, you had to have sold like, I don't know, 10,000 licenses. That was the only difference back then. And so I would go in and shape the requirement with the government, say, hey, this is unnecessary. This gold partnership, you eliminate a lot of us who are really good, and we were one of the best in the government contracting around SharePoint. You eliminate it because we're not selling Microsoft's licenses. When I had a meeting and I educated my customer, they're like, oh, yeah, I really don't care about that. Compared to if they look at CMMI level 1 or level 2 or level 3 or something, level 3 might be really important and they hold on to that one. So you can make your case around it. The last one I want to point out there on the scope is I like trying to push for orals. I like getting into the program office and say, hey, when you're talking to the contract officer, make sure that you have a phase that requires us to come in and talk to you about what we would do, because the reason my advantage is then we talk really well, right? I have a customer who won a direct award 8A just by going in with these two people went in and they were the experts, and the customer was just completely wowed. They're like, oh my God, you guys know what you're doing. Compared to your competitors, just send a salesperson in. And then the acquisition approach. There's all sorts of stuff you could shape. Everything that's in the acquisition side of the house is discussable. Doesn't mean they're going to say it, but the NAICS code is a great one. You might want to use a NAICS code that keeps the threshold for what is a small business lower. I'm doing that right now with a $6 million opportunity with one of my customers, and in the workshop, and saying, let's push that to make sure this NAICS code is the one that's used. And so you can do that on all sorts of other ones. I like to do page count, less page count. It's really hard for people to write less pages. And time to respond within 10 days instead of 15 or something. And it makes it hard on your competitors. This is just a competitive kind of approach. By the way, if you're interested in Capture mentoring, I'm doing some of that. It's a paid thing, but if you're interested in that and want to hear about it, let me know. And then let me just, I'm down to 1 minute. Here's what I want you to remember from today's training. Follow a pipeline-driven process. What I mean is have a process, and I've written out my process in many trainings, and you can use it, and then embed that into your pipeline, and the pipeline drives the process, meaning if you follow the steps in the pipeline, then you're following the process. The next thing is make sure you're reviewing your pipeline opportunities daily. If you got so many opportunities, you can't look at them in a single 15-minute meeting. You got too many in there, because some of them will say, don't look at it again until February. And then the last step is always know for every opportunity in your pipeline, what's the next step? When you know that, then that's Capture. You're following a process. You're trying to move this forward like a task. Make sure you register for the networking event. We got that on Monday. It's coming up in a couple of days. I don't know how many people are registered. And get in there, though. I'd love to have you in there. I'd love to see you face to face. last thing, just remember as we move forward, I know I went very, very fast, so you can go back and watch the replay, but government contracting, it is not a secret. It's just a process. When we follow a process for capture, we're going to see an increased success in our proposals and contracts won. All right, I will see you in the next training.